All right, guys. I want to go over setting up your file um, to create that three-dimensional mockup. All right. All right. So to start, um, you have your file set up, right? You have your bleeds, um, and then at all the folds, you want to create a little mark for where the folding would be in the bleed area. So you can see here, I just created a simple line right at the fold that's left out in the bleed, so it's not going into the actual artwork. So on the top and bottom of both sides of your print. All right. Once you have that set up, go to export, save it as a PDF. Make sure you have pages. If you have multiple pages up here, like right now I have mine set up just as like 1117. But if you have multiple pages in here, you want to have spread selected. Then in here, you want to make sure you have your crop mark set, have your bleed settings checked off, and then hit export. And then it's going to set everything up, create the PDF for you. Eventually. All right, this. All right, so now we have this PDF. Now we're going to right click, open with Photoshop. And you want to hold shift and select both pages, 1 and 2. You want to crop to the bleed box. And then resolution, I mean, if you're printing this, then definitely do 300. If you're not, 72 or 150 for a little bit lower res to make it a little bit easier and run quicker. That's fine. So then hit OK. All right, so now anything that didn't have a background is going to show up transparent. All right. Here I had a full background, so I have nothing that's has like no background to it. So with this, all you need to do is go to Layer, Flatten, and it will make the entire background white now for me. All right. So now I need to draw in my guides for where I'm cropping and folding. All right. So starting on the top left, hide this for a second. I'm going to draw in a box so this way I can snap my guides to it. Draw a box here. All right, so I have this side done. Now I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so now we have this. We got to crop it. So I'm going to use my crop tool, and I'm going to simply just bring the crop right to the edge of that first line on each side, and hit return. And do the same on this side. Okay. So now the next step is figure out my die cut. So this is where my die cut is going to be. I want the coffee cup to be cut out. Now, there's two things you can do. Because I have a white background, I can get away with simply using my magic wand tool here to select this and make that selection and hit delete. If you don't have that capability, if you have like a lot of stuff in the background that's not going to give you a clean selection, we can go back to our InDesign file, and I want to move this and drag it into here. Okay, so now I can move this right on top, right here. All right, now to make a selection, I can, instead of using the magic wand, I can go to the layer, let me pull this back in, and hold Option Command, and you can see how my cursor turns into this little, has a little box. That tells me whatever I click is going to make a selection. All right. Same thing, if you do it this way, it makes a selection. All right. So now we need to delete. Because of when we open this up and I had a transparent background and we flattened it, you can see now there's a little lock here, right? On the other file that we didn't flatten, no lock. So we could delete anything on here easily. This here, we first have to release that background. So I'm going to delete this item first. So you right click and you hit the first option, layer from background, and then just hit OK. So now when we hit delete, it removes that image from there. Okay. So now what we need to do is also delete that cup from this side, right? Because when this is printed and cut out, it would be removed over here as well. So I'm going to use my selection tool. I'm going to draw a selection around this object, and then I'm going to separate out these tabs, and I'm going to drag this into here. All right, but now I need to flip it because I need to have it kind of printed reverse on the other side of this paper. So you go to Edit, Transform, and Flip Horizontal. And then I'm going to drop it right into place over here. So I'm trying to get just this selection right here. So now if I do that Option Command Shift again and hit Select, I select this entire panel. But all I want is this. So hit Command Shift I to select the inverse. So now you can see we have this selected, but we also have all this selected. Go to my selection tool over here. And when I hold Option, you can see that I have a negative sign that comes up. I'm going to click and drag to deselect everything except for this cup. So now I can delete this because I don't need it anymore. And now on here, I just simply hit delete. So now you can see now that die cut is in part of this file. All right. All right. So when I build the to make it look three-dimensional, I usually always end up using the file that shows the inside. All right, it's just easier for me. Instead of creating another file or whatever else, I'm already in here, so I do it this way. So what I need to do is create more of a background for me to work with. All right, or canvas size rather. So go up to image, canvas size, and add maybe like 3 inches or something to everything. So this way you can always crop it down later. Hit OK. And now we have a little bit extra room to work with. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add simple shadowing to the layout to show where these folds are. Because when we hide our guides, no one knows, how this folds. Is it, is it a roll fold? No idea. So I want to draw in some shadowing. So generally, I don't use black for my shadowing. Sometimes it becomes too harsh. So what I do is I try and select like a dark version of a color that's being used in here. All right. So I select one of the darker browns. I hit OK. And then I'm going to create a new layer on top of this. Then I'm going to go to my gradient tool here. And up here, so you have your gradient tool. I have my foreground color. I click up here and you can see I have my foreground color. And I want it to go to 0 opacity, right? Because I want to go from this brown to nothing. So I hit OK. Then I click and drag, and I want to hold shift so it's a straight gradient like this. All right, so you can see this gradient sits in here, pulls out. Um, if you need to adjust it or you want to redo it, all right. So now I need to delete everything except for up to this fold, because what I'm trying to do is create the light source coming from the left to the right. Um, so it's shadowing a little bit, and then when it hits that bump and it pushes up, the light source shows through. I'm sorry, it doesn't show through. So I'm going to click and delete everything after that fold. So now you can see when I hit Command H, you can see how that looks like a sharp fold, and the light source is hitting this and then bumps up. So I also want to create a little bit more of a blend. I want to allow the background texture to show through more. So instead of having normal for my blending option, I'm going to go to multiply. And now you can see how that comes through, right? The beans come through, the background texture comes through. 100% opacity usually is a little too harsh. So you can like drop it down. Hitting the number keys, you can see like, 6, 60%, 5 is 50%, and it's a little more subtle of a shadow. So then we also want to make another copy of it and have it on this fold, right? So this way you can see those two folds are clearly sitting there on the actual paper. So now it looks like to the person that's looking at this, it looks like a fold. Now the top of these, we want to cut them off. What we simply can do is create a mask. So click on the first layer right above the background and hit right click and go to clipping mask. You can see how this creates a little arrow pointing down, and now you can see it's going here. To create this, all you need to do is drag it in between a mask that's already there. All right, so now the inside, very simple. We just showed a viewer how this looks when it's all folded open and with the shadows in there. All right, so now I want to show what this looks like when it's just starting to open up. All right, so I'm going to make a copy of all of this, and I'm going to hide these and then work on this one here. All right, so now I'm going to drag these in. So this here is going to go right here. So let me bring back my guides so they lock into place. And then this one is going to go on the left of that. So that's what the cover looks like when it's completely closed, but I want to show the person kind of like what's happening when it's starting to open up. So first I'm going to get rid of these. I don't need these shadows anymore at the moment. And I need to delete the outside of these. So this way I'm only showing the covers on top of what's on the inside. All right, so now I want to kind of make this look like it's being opened up. So if you hit Command T, you'll have this box show up around the item, right? So you can see that it changes this. You can change the height and everything else. What we want to do is hold Option, and you can see that when I'm clicking on or near one of these boxes, the arrow turns white. When I pull, you can see that now it's kind of distorting the object. All right, and you can distort whatever way that you want. All we want to do is simply just look like we're opening up the brochure, or the menu rather. All right. So once that's set, you hit return and then do the same on this side. Like so. All right. All right, so now I want to add a little bit more shadowing in here to look like, because in theory, this would be darker as it comes out, right? So same thing that we did with the other one. We hit a new layer. We go to our gradient tool, and I'm going to drag out to about there. And then multiply, and you can always adjust it. And then right click, create clipping mask. And now that's creating a little bit of a shadow for how this looks like when it's being opened up. All right. Now the other thing that we need to do is maybe I want to show one side being open while the other side is still being closed as an option. All right. So what we can do is we can hide this. I'm going to bring back these, make a copy. And now I'm going to have the cover still kind of being closed. So I want to bring that element back in. So I'm going to make a copy and have it here. So now I need to delete this. And now I want to change this just a little bit. I don't need to make a whole nother item in here, right? Because if I have this just selected and I go to this tool here, I can move it around without having to make another layer. It's still staying on the same layer, all right? So once I have this selected, I can hit Command T and just adjust this slightly. So now you can see this has a little bit of a fold, like kind of exaggerating that fold a little bit more. And I still have this piece kind of showing that this is folded over as well. All right, so you can have um, multiple ways of showing how your menu will be folded on screen, kind of showing like a three-dimensional mock-up. So then all of these pieces here, you can create folders for them, so it's a little bit easier to keep it organized. Just have everything selected and then hit the folder icon and it will put everything into that folder for you. All right, so this way, if say you wanted to have multiple pieces showing up, you have that capability. So I'm going to have this sitting here, and then I have that sitting here. I can shrink them down so they all fit on the screen. All right. All right, so now when you want to save this, definitely you're going to want to have like a background to it. And if we just do a white background, the front cover of mine is going to get lost. All right. So you have a couple options. You can easily just select a slightly darker, or if it's a darker one that you have going on, then you change it accordingly. So this here, changing it that way. Another way that you could go about doing this is maybe selecting the cover and then go to adjust brightness contrast. I'm going to use legacy, and then you just make it a little bit darker to have that contrast. Either way is going to be fine, whatever you prefer. Me personally, whatever is white, and if it should stay white to show the viewer that that's white, then I would change the background. All right. Then when you want to save this, if you're saving it for screen, save it as a JPEG. If you're saving it to print, save it as a TIFF, or even a PDF. It's totally up to you how you want to save the file, depending on how it's going to be used. But that's it. That's basically how you would set up a three-dimensional piece using your file. All right. So hopefully this helps. I will definitely later today help anyone that needs help doing this in class. Um, but yeah, hope it helps, and I'll see you guys later.